This time I have a Bob Carver special. This is a Silver 9 monoblock that has no sound. I've never been into one of these ones before. I've worked on some of his other stuff in the past. So this is going to be a learning experience for me to actually see how these are built. I know that they are built pretty good, but can they be easily serviced? I'm going to say no, they can't. It's, well, once you get into it, you'll see. Check it out. This time I have a Carver amplifier, signed by Bob Carver, I should mention. Right, this is the magnetic field power amplifier, model Silver 9, vacuum tube transfer function, it says on here. And this one has got no sound. We'll see deflections on the meter. There we go. You can see deflections on the meter, but no output. So we got to pop this one open and see why there's no sound. This might just be the preamp working. Well, let's get into this one and see what's going on. I'm going to pull some screws out to lift the top off of it. There's that little beauty right there. A few cobwebs in here. Just a few. Well, I do think this might be a relatively easy repair. You see, if you look down here, this big resistor here appears to have the lead that's snapped off of it that goes down to, I think it's going down to the negative speaker terminal. That's what it looks like. Let's just get this out of the way here. Just peel off this silicone. Try to stick myself with this solder. It's sharp. I got the power disconnected here, so we'll just kind of peel this out of the way here. It's just held in place with silicone. And you can see that this resistor has been snapped off. And that looks like that goes to this speaker terminal down here. Why would that make a difference? It's a resistor. It's just like a snubber. It's just a capacitor and a resistor across the speaker terminals, but maybe the other speaker terminal snapped off. I think that's probably what's happened is the speaker... Oh, there it is. There's the fault right there. You can see the big black wire going to the speaker terminal. Well, you guys can't see it because the resistor's in the way, but I think the speaker terminal, somebody was cranking this down. You can see it's cracked. Someone was cranking this down to the point where it was actually spinning the nut on the back side, and they twisted it around and snapped off the wire. And there's the end of the resistor that snapped off too. There's our fault. Excellent. Okay, well, the guy will be happy that owns this thing because, you know, it's... These are pricey, these amplifiers, and he has them signed by Bob Carver. The other one that he brought me, I like this. Oh, talk about hokey. Hokey. My God, I hope that Bob Carver didn't do this. I hope that this is just some other hack job that did it, but looks like somebody put LED lights in it, and they just soldered in the resistors here, and they just kind of left the resistors just hanging out the back of the board there. Look at this. It's a joke. Like, who does work like that? I mean, for Christ's sake, trim the freaking ends off. Don't leave little big wires hanging there just ready to be, you know, ready to short circuit. Oh, God. Okay, so I know what's wrong with this one. This resistor here that's cooked, it's not even all that important, but it's just a snubber for the output. But I don't know what value it is. I'll have to peel the silicone off there, but I'm sure I've got one. But let's get the wire reattached back here. That might be easier said than done because I got to dig the wire out first and get some slack on it and tack it back down to the speaker terminal. I was able to fish the wire out. Of course, the wire's too short to reach over to here now, and you can see where the other side of it is snapped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to piece another section of wire in. We'll strip this wire back. I'll piece another piece in, put some heat shrink on there, and attach it down to the terminal. We'll attach it to the terminal first and then piece it onto this one. That's probably the best way I can think of doing this, and then replace this resistor. It's a 2.7 ohm resistor is all this is, so I mean that's nothing, no big deal. We'll deal with that later. This is just this is what this is for. This is what's called a snubber. So how it works is it increases your dampening factor for your speakers. What happens when you kick your speaker with a big voltage, right? Your speaker cone, like from a bass drum or something, your speaker cone moves out. And then the speaker cone moves back. And as the speaker comes back, it generates a voltage, a back EMF voltage, which will go back into the amplifier. And what that does is that back EMF voltage gets snubbed out by this capacitor and this resistor, 2.7 ohms. Basically, it appears as almost like a short through the capacitor. And as the woofer comes back, it kicks that energy back. Without it, you probably wouldn't notice much. Most people probably wouldn't hear it. When you're doing measurements, the back EMF will cause a distortion figure rise. So it's what's called the dampening factor. That this is what's there to compensate for big speakers that produce a fair bit of energy coming back. Look at these connections here. They don't even look even all that good, do they? Pieces of wire hanging out. All right, so first things first, I got to get a new piece of wire, hook it up to that post. We'll solder that on. I might even hook it onto the stub that's sticking out here if I can get the insulation off it, if it's not too badly damaged. It's been twisted around, but I might be able to get the insulation off here. Then I can twist a new wire in and get it oh, it just came right off. So I'm going to have to solder it back down to the terminal itself. We'll get a new piece of wire wrapped around there, soldered down. That's going to be tough because I don't want to take this thing apart, because the way it's designed, this board is connected to this board, and this board is connected to all the freaking output transistors. And the output transistor are connected to this outside railing here. So it's not like it's easy to get this thing apart to work on it. These are not easy units to work on because of how they're built. Right? I mean, they're good amplifier, but they're not easy to work on. You see how they've all the output transistors down here, right? They're all mounted to the heatsink, but you notice that they've just got solid wires connecting across the board here, solid bare wires. I don't like that because, if anything drops down there, it's going to short out and cause major sparks. But they've done that to isolate the transistors from the circuit board for better heat sinking. I don't know that it actually does anything as sonically, because you've got induction from all these different wires. It probably doesn't affect it much, but still, they've done it. They've isolated it from the board. Just more points of failure. You've got more solder connections down here. They're all done well, but it's just more points of failure. Every time you have an extra solder connection, that's just one more thing that can go wrong. But I think there's also transistors on the other side of this, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, there are. You see, there's another series of transistors on the other side of this as well. So you've got transistors going right down to the board, and you've got these other transistors on the other side. You've got your 2SA on one side. These are all 2SAs. Where's the 2SCs? Oh, here are the 2SCs up here. So you got your PMPs are on this side, and then the NPNs are all on this side. You can see them all up there. But again, very, very difficult to work on because of the layout. You can't just take things out. You can't just pull modules out to work on them. It's tough to work on something like this just because of how it's built. You talk about the modern stuff not being designed to be serviced well. These ones here are not very service friendly. If you have to get in there and start changing parts, you literally have to take the entire unit completely apart, and it's no easy task, just the way it's built. The outside rail might come off this, like this outside cabinet. I think this comes off. I see there's screws in there, so I think the outside rails here might come off, and then those are mounted down to the base. But it doesn't help me at the back here, because I've got to get in behind here and hook a wire up to there and splice it to that. It doesn't help. It's not service friendly is what this is. It's not service friendly. And that's why people that service these things charge what they charge, because just to start changing parts, you're looking at several hours just to get the thing stripped down so you can get at it. But I mean, if we look at the chassis here, these screws can come out. The two screws here and these ones along the side, they can come out, and then this outside frame with the meter and everything on it, that can lift off and be moved out of the way. But it's still, that gives you access to the transistors on this side. Doesn't help you for the transistors on this side, because this board here is attached down to, well, the board is attached to this one at the back through a connector that does not plug in. And It gives you a little access to the transistors down here, and you have to try to access these other ones in the available space. But it doesn't help me for where I need to be, because this back piece, as you can see, is part of the main chassis. The back piece doesn't come off. Side rails will come off. The front will come off, which gives access to what's buried up front here on this other circuit board under the meter. Get access to that. Transformers here, power supplies here, rectifiers will be down on this back board, I think, down here. Yeah, there's big rectifiers down here on the back side of this board, right down in there. Doesn't help me. Doesn't help me get to this, so I don't need to take that all apart. I'm just going to have to work with what I've got, get in there with a piece of wire, wrap it around there, and solder it down and bring it out. That's about all I can do. I'm just going to use this piece of wire to piece out the section that's damaged. So first things first, I'll just strip the end of it with my trusty wire strippers. This is a 16 gauge wire, so let's just get it in the 16 gauge notch and strip the 16 gauge wire back a bit. I got to get this is going to be the hard part, get this around the terminal so that I can solder it on. I don't need to worry too much about that other piece of hunk of wire from the resistor. We'll just get the iron in there and take that off. It's going to be hard for you guys to see, I think. Let me see if I can move this light. Maybe both of us can see what I'm doing. I'm going to try to get the undo the speaker wire here so that my wire doesn't get melted. I'm sure there's going to be a bit of heat put on this. Look at this one. The guy's cracked. Both of these binding posts probably should be replaced, but we're not going there. He can deal with this. It's fine. It's fine. Really, it's fine. It's not going to be a problem. You know, we're good. We're good. The hard part's going to be getting in here and getting this other one out. I got to get some heat in there first. Oh, this is going to be fun. I might have to use my other iron because I think it might have a little bit skinnier tip. Yeah, I might use this one because it's got a skinnier tip. I can get in there and have a little more room to work. So let me get my other soldering iron fired up. All right, so got a smaller tip. I can get in there and take this other one out. This other wire out first. There we go. All right, now I got to get this new wire around the back side and soldered down. Oh, there's so little room in here to work. It's just ridiculous. Might be able to stick that on there. All right, let's see if I can solder that down. Get it to stick. I don't know how it's showing up on camera, but again, I got very little room to work in here, as you guys can appreciate. Let's see if I can get this to tack down. Almost looks like somebody put a wrench on here. If you look at this, it looks like somebody stuck a wrench on there to tighten it down. That's like these idiots that did the same thing with, you know, back in the days of cable TV. They would put a wrench. Yes, there's a fitting on the end of the coax that you could put a wrench on. And I mean, we used them at work for MOCA connections to make sure they're snugged. Snugging it and torquing it down to 100 inch-pounds is two different things. And okay, that should be good there, I think. We'll just let that cool down. And that's the problem, is when you got a wrench fitting on there, people tend to put wrenches on and they have a 12-inch crescent or whatever, and they have lots of torque and they break things. The number of connectors that were snapped off the back of TVs back in the day was just amazing. The number of RF connections that were actually snapped right off of a TV. I couldn't believe how many times it happened. Like, it wasn't just once or twice. It was, it was a weekly occurrence. I'm talking about that, right? That right here. People would put a wrench on there and they'd tighten this thing down to the point they would snap the tuner connector off. And then they were mad at me or the shop because I had to put a new tuner in their TV. Like, what? You can't just put the connector back on? No, you broke the circuit board inside when you turned it so tight. You twisted the tab around to the point where it actually cracked the circuit board. So yeah, I got to put a new tuner in your TV. It's $200. They were mad. Well, how come they put those connectors? How come the coax connectors have that on the end if you're not supposed to tighten it? I say, well, that's because when you're using it with a barrel fitting and you're putting two of them together and they're outside and you want to make sure that water doesn't get into it, you tighten them up good and tight, but not on the back of your TV. But as I say, it never ceased to amaze me the stupidity of some customers. And this is abuse. When you've tightened it so tight, you've actually cracked the plastic. And you've cracked the plastic there, right? That one's been tightened up too. These are speaker terminals. They don't need to be tight like that. Finger tight. That's all they need. Finger tight. At least like that one's loose on the back too, because that one someone's been spinning around. I'm surprised it hasn't broken. But it's loose too, because someone's been cranking it on. Jesus. I think the wires are okay back there. I'll have to tell them, just be gentle with it. Use banana plugs or something, right? There's no reason to torque that thing down to the point where you're breaking the bloody connector. The next thing he'll be asking me to change it. That'll be the next thing. Okay, you change the connector? No, I can't. Can't get in there to change it. I have to rip the whole unit apart to get at that to change. Because I'm not getting a wrench in there to try to... I will never get a wrench in there to try to turn that thing. He's just going to have to be gentle with it, I think. I was able to put the resistor back together. There was enough of a stub there that I could just Dremel out a little bit of the cement at the end to make a good connection. We can measure the resistor here with the low ohms meter. It is measuring 2.3 ohms. Okay, that's close enough. It was measuring, it's a 2.7. We zero at the meter, so we're good. 2.4, 2.5 ohms. We're good. That'll be fine. I don't have a 2.7, and I'm not driving to Burnaby to buy one. That's what the options were, to go to Burnaby and buy one for it, or just you to fix this one. And I was able to fix this one, so now I'm just going to reconnect this to the same speaker terminal that the speaker is on. And the guy that owns this, he'll break it again anyway. Because they usually do. This is being used to drive magnepans, and the fellow that owns it told me he took the fuses out for the magnepans and replaced them with solid copper rods. I mean, this is not a critical part anyway. It's just the dampening factor, and it's not a super critical part, but we'll put it back in. Reconnect it to the capacitor, and then we'll throw some more silicone on here to reattach it to the board. I have some Dow 732 silicone, multi-purpose silicone rubber. For those of you that wonder, because if I don't tell you I'm using Dow 732, I will get a gazillion questions saying, what type of sealant did you use? And silicone sealant is silicone sealant. It's not bathtub caulk, it's silicone sealant. So we'll just throw some behind here. This is just to secure this back down like it was before. Same with behind this one. Glue those back into place. Just like that. And now I'm going to just strip the negative terminals, put some heat shrink tubing on there, and splice them together. So I get my little wire strippers out here. We'll strip it back, number 16 gauge. Same with this one. There we go. Get some heat shrink tubing. Tell you, this is where that other iron sure works better. I mean, this one works, but it just, with the smaller tip on there, it just takes longer to do anything. And make sure that's sufficiently cooled. Bring the heat shrink tubing over it like this, and then I'll just get my heat gun. We'll shrink that down and tuck it in there so it won't touch anything. All right, I'm going to power it up. There it is. I can already hear sound. It hasn't even come on to full power yet, I don't think. There we go. Now it's kicked up. It's working! Of course it's working. One thing he complained about was he says the meters aren't evenly lit. Well, I've got his other one here as well. He says the meters aren't evenly lit. Well, it's probably because of the way that they've got them pointed, right? They've got LEDs in here that are just kind of... Oh, there's like 4 LEDs in here. There's only 3 of them lit. When I bend the leads around, the 4th LED kicks in on this one. This one's only got 3. That one's got 4 now. That one's got 5. No wonder there are multiple LEDs in here, but only some of them are lit. Anyway, that's his meters. He's concerned about the light from the LEDs, but this the way that they're angled. They're going to light this meter differently. I don't want to bend them down because I don't want to have a hot spot, right? Try to evenly light it. Anyway, it's functional. Only problem on this is, as you saw, they wrenched the speaker terminal so tight that they damaged them. They ripped the wires right out the back. So, nice simple fix that took a lot longer than you would think that would take, just because of how awkward it was to get at that terminal. So what I'm wondering is, I don't see any protection relay on this. I wonder if we're going to get anything weird happen when I turn off the power. Oh yeah. Here's his other one, signed off as well. We're going to check the lights on the meter on this one. This one works. I love how they put the dial in. They just smear silicone around the back to hold it together. This one here, one of the LEDs is kind of foobar. It's flickering away. Probably could use some new LEDs, but I don't have any yellow ones that will match the color, so if he wants LEDs, I'll have to either change the color of them or get some for him of this color, as I don't have any of these type of LEDs. They would have to be ordered in. Anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.